And we're live. This is Deacon Joseph Swaden. Um, Sorry about the delay and then the next delay and then the next delay. Um, Unfortunately, things happen a lot, and I do apologize. I'll try harder to schedule these and make them more workable. Anyway, over the past few episodes, we've been discussing the apologetic method. And today I figured I'd go live to see if I could answer some questions. Sorry if I'm out of breath. I ran upstairs realizing the time. So basically, first question, and I think it's totally fair. I'm skipping Nick's for now. I am not in the best of health. I'm actually somewhat overweight, but that's beside the point. More importantly, yesterday, I had some sort of allergic reaction to some fast food that I had eaten. And so I was in a Walmart parking lot, realized that I had scheduled the show kind of earlier than I thought, wasn't going to make it on time. No, this is not pre-recorded too. This is actually me live. That was more of a kind of funny thing that I guess wasn't that funny. But okay. So let's go through questions. We've got a couple of them. So yeah, I'm not in too bad health. And let me see here. In a previous episode, I heard Bishop Enoch mention that he didn't think Saint Paisios was a saint. Maybe I misunderstood him. No, not necessarily. I don't know what his position is on him. Saint Paisios was glorified by the ecumenical patriarchate, and this is one of those wonderful political things. Like I remember when Saint John of Shanghai, and to this day there are actually some people in the EP who still don't consider Saint John a saint. They consider him kind of like a semi-schismatic who might have been a holy man, but they don't recognize the glorification. So not unrecognized glorifications do happen all the time. They usually get resolved with time. That was 20 years ago. Saint John of Shanghai was controversial. Like he wouldn't be venerated in the OCA. And also like vice versa. Saint Alexis was glorified by the OCA, wasn't venerated in Roquefort for a couple of years. So this sort of thing happens. It's just a messy thing, but God's saints are always revealed over time. Suffering Orthodoxy asks, what food was it? Well, I'm gonna guess it's Arby's horseradish sauce that caused me to kind of have a reaction. My nose flared up, so I don't know what that was. But in any case, so hello to everyone. Nicholas Sanismos, are you debating someone? Remember, I'm totally game to come back on the show for a follow-up debate on our original debate. Well, I'll let that go to a vote. Anyway, if I don't even remember what our original debate was on because we were barely agreeing on terms. So I'm not exactly sure what to say to that. I mean, if you just want to come on and chat, then say that. And let's see here. And let's see. That was so smooth, though. No idea what that means. But anyway. So let's see what other things. Anyway, if there are any questions in general or about the apologetic method, do you have a position on Elder Ephraim and Joseph the Hesychast? Me personally, I think that the Elder Joseph the Hesychast is likely a saint. I haven't seen too many miracles on the part of Elder Ephraim, but what he did, just in terms of how many monasteries he created in this country, etc., is quite amazing. I don't know yet. Father Deacon, will you do a show on priestism, Western Rite prayers, and devotions? I could have sworn we did a show on that. I double check that on the list of the many episodes we have. I'm pretty sure we've discussed Western Rite a few times. I don't use the Western Rite currently. However, I mean, it's what I've used for almost over a decade, well, just about a decade. So it's still very dear to me. Have you heard from Bishop Enoch lately? How's he doing? It seems he's kept a low profile on social media lately. Yes, that is true. I don't really want to go into that for him. I think that would be wrong on my part because it's his life. He is at the monastery. The monastery is, last I checked, still standing. And so I'm not I mean, I think he's okay. He just tends to kind of go quiet on social media. Um, oh, the end. Oh, the end of the I see what you mean. Okay, and then that was the nail in the coffin for me with traditional Catholicism. If John the 23rd, Paul the 6th, and John Paul the 2nd are canonized saints, then I'm out. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, ever since probably, I would say since John Paul himself, since the canonization of Mother Teresa, everything became completely political. It was whoever was most. If you're the most popular Catholic on TV, then you are going to be a saint. And ultimately, John Paul himself would be canonized in exactly the same manner. So yeah, it's not the same in Roman Catholicism. That is a major difference. Is our process is messier, but it's much more secure. As Bishop Enoch found more corruptions in the Filioque. Mostly he gets the work he's mostly the stuff he got mostly from Adam von Zernikoff's work, which is in Latin. It actually contains a lot of these, and so he was painstakingly going through it and then looking for those manuscripts, and so he would be finding them. But yeah, von Zernikoff is really the origin of the work. And I don't get how Gregory the Seventh is a saint. I assume you're talking about Gregory the Seventh as in Hildebrand. That's an interesting story because, as I've mentioned before, during the Investiture War, which is the way we should really refer to it, Hildebrand's group noticed that Clement III, who was considered the legitimate pope at the time by most of the West, miracles began happening around his body, and so they had to do a damnatio memoriae for him and throw him in the river. But it's not like they then countered it with, let's make Hildebrand a saint, because everyone knew how bad he was. So they actually had to wait a couple of 100 years once they had cemented their new religion before making Hildebrand a saint as its founder. Father Deacon, how do we engage disingenuous people who have influence and are being willfully ignorant, deceptive in the apologetic sphere? That's a really good question. My immediate answer is to say you don't. Because the truth of the matter is, unless you have the knowledge of their own method to unravel them, in other words, to expose them as, being false, I wouldn't engage them, because then they could just be using you as a prop. So you would have to, at that point, if you're dealing with somebody, especially in apologetics, most of these people are polished speakers, or polished writers, etc. You have to be careful, because you already know you're dealing with a fox, or a snake. The point is, you're going to have to be able to expose what they're doing, and that's much more difficult if you're not fully conscious of it. If you know what they're going to do, then you can use that to your advantage. And the fact that in Catholic dogma it's impossible for the church to err on candidates, that's absolutely correct. That is another difference between us and them, and that's because our process of glorification of saints is messy, but it doesn't fail because the cultist moves by the power of the Holy Spirit as opposed to by the power of dogmatization. I feel if I don't interact, they will deceive other people. Well, that's, unfortunately, when you're dealing with heterodox apologists, they are going to, that's their whole job. There's not much you can really do about that, except unless if you feel you can challenge them, you want to kind of set the stage for it, but otherwise I wouldn't go into a prolonged discussion with somebody who is being really deceptive. Once I feel like I'm being deceived by my opponent and they're not operating in good faith, I have very little reason to continue talking to them, because unless people are operating at least on the premise that they believe in what they're saying, then I'll engage them. But if a person, I've met people in apologetics, especially on the Roman Catholic side, and I might get into that in a little bit, who frankly are not honest about their positions. They either don't understand their position, or more importantly, they do, but they don't want to present that correctly to you. And in that sort of situation, it's not worth the fight, because you're part of the entertainment. Let's see. He isn't a saint for us. Yeah, I know that. I'm not sure. I assume you're talking about Gregory the Seventh. Hello, doggy. Yeah, it's the doggy. Hey, do you think that Benedictine spirituality can be incorporated in lay spirituality? If so, how would that look like? Thank you. I'm going to be honest with you. The Benedictine rule, or the rule of Saint Benedict, is used at the Abbey. It is a monastic rule. It is nice for lay people to read. There are things referred to the oblate system is just basically the worker system that you see in any monastery, Eastern or Western. People who help out at the monastery who are kind of assigned to roles, but they're not actually monastics. That's as close as you're going to get. The rule of Saint Benedict is a monastic rule, and oblates are attached to a monastery. The idea of kind of incorporating it in your life without what it really was doesn't make sense to me. It's probably it's better to just look at it as, if you really feel called to living more the life of the rule of Saint Benedict, find a monastery that follows it. Although I should mention that the rule of Saint Benedict is basically just a slight restructuring of the rule of Saint Basil and other monastic rules, but particularly the rule of Saint Basil. So it's kind of, when people say Benedictine, I get nervous because are you talking about like the kind of the order, that concept that doesn't exist in Orthodoxy? So it's not really worth it. And then, yeah, Devin says, I'd say oblate programs are a good way. That's absolutely right. If you're not attached to a Benedictine monastery or an Orthodox monastery of Eastern Rite, etc., you shouldn't try to incorporate things in your life that don't make sense. In that sense. And let me see. I don't think the Catholics know about Pope John the 12th and Benedict the Ninth. I'd have to look those two up. I'm not sure about them. Let's see here. I know that some Orthodox monasteries incorporate an oblate program, but that seems like a Latin innovation. Additionally, I find that Lectio Divina seems to be co-opted by Latins. I can find any Orthodox sources on it. If you're talking about the hours, that's typical in every monastery, whether Eastern or Western. As for oblates being an innovation, well, the concept of oblates in the Benedictine order in Roman Catholicism is largely an innovated system, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is people who work and help and volunteer at the monastery, which is what an oblatus really is. Oblatus is just Latin for worker. And then, can you recommend any pre-schism Gregorian chant that you like? Frankly, I mean, most Gregorian chant sounds like Gregorian chant. I like Sarum chant, which is what I'm kind of used to, but that's just a slight variant on the typical Gregorian tones. But I'm a big fan of, when it comes to Western stuff. I like Silos's stuff. I don't mind. I like what's Ensemble Organum, but a lot of people say that's Byzantinized. I don't know how much. The Eson really, it had the Organum, or the Western Eson really did have a role in the pre-schism West and even the post-schism West for about 150 to 200 years. What exactly about lay oblation is bad? Just saying it happened past X date doesn't mean it's bad. I'm not saying that oblation is bad when it's a real thing, when it's attached to a monastery. What I have a problem with, and I'm referring this to the later innovations, and because it happened by a certain date, it's not that it doesn't mean it's bad, it's that it means it's suspect. Oblates worked at a monastery. If you take away the monastery, there's nothing there, because it has to be the rule of the monastery, which is the rule of Saint Benedict. So it kind of makes no sense once we're talking about that. When you can't take out the monastery from the oblation. Did Celtic monasticism differ greatly from Roman monastic tradition? The truth of the matter is not really. There have been, reconstructions that have been done on that. And I think what happens is this. People find that there's a unique prayer, so on and so forth, and then they write a book on it claiming some sort of independence. Like, there's loads of books on quote-unquote Celtic spirituality, and half that stuff is neo-pagan. It's not even remotely related to Western Orthodoxy or even Celtic Orthodoxy. Like, it would make St. Patrick sick if he saw what was going on with it. But yeah, don't look for the exotic. Just go for the things that are basic. We go to church, we pray, we do the hours, we go to liturgy. These are the most basic thing. There's no secret sauce to make a new and different orthodoxy. The orthodoxy is always the same. Yes, Doggy, I see you. What is a good underrated Latin saint pre-1054? St. Augustine. Anyway, what is your opinion on lay people using St. Isaac the Syrian's ascetical homilies in the ladder of divine ascent for spiritual growth? I don't have an opinion. I don't think that orthodoxy should be read from a book. The best these things are useful. Like the ladder of divine ascent has been used and is used occasionally during Great Lent. So it's not a bad book by itself. But I remember when I was first becoming Orthodox, and the priest actually gave me some good advice on this. And what he said was, he said a lot of us will read stuff like the Philokalia, because like back when I first came in, the Philokalia was getting really popular among converts, and people were like, like reading this. And he's like, people go in, they start reading the Philokalia from their comfy couch with their cheeseburger in hand, and they think they've become a great ascetic because they've missed the point that these books are written with the concept of ascetic practice in mind. And if you take that out and you just read them, it's not clear. Thank you for answering, no problem. Where should one go to learn of priesthood Western Orthodoxy? I mean, my personal suggestion would be to find the best translations of the old text you can. I personally do still recommend the medieval monastic Psalter. I know that it is used in some with similar versions, like Father Aidan's version, are used in Rokor, but those are all pre-schism stuff. And the prayer book that was done by Father Aidan is invaluable. If you can get your hands on it or a copy of it, it is very handy. But what you'll find is that pre-schism Western Orthodoxy is not going to be that different from Eastern Orthodoxy. I was actually horrified when I read somewhere about this spread of this concept of I think that's a great answer actually, Devin. A solid Western Rite parish. But I'll talk about the Orthodox Rosary later because that actually bothered me a bit. Talking about St. Isaac the Syrian, would you say he's an historian? No. Father Deacon, let's start an Orthodox Apologetics weight loss team, and we can hold each other accountable 1 pound at a time, 1 Pater Noster at a time. That sounds like a good plan. You'll probably succeed before I do. Yeah, I understand that. I should lose weight, and that's it's got to be a focus. Let me see here. And John, that's in the Metropolia has a society called the Society of St. John the Wonder Worker. You can join for free. I've never heard of this. But anyway, maybe it's something Bishop Enoch started that I wasn't aware of. Yeah, easier said than done. I actually take almost no sugar, but carbs are all over the place for me. And I'm trying. So, that's a goal. But anyway, let me see here. So that's glad I can answer a few questions. If there's any more, just keep them coming, and give me 1 second. Just gonna step away for a sec. Okay, back. Sorry about that. Anyway, so as I said, in dealing with when you're dealing with I don't know if I should go back to this topic. I feel like this topic's going to be like a controversial take, and I feel like people are going to be mad at me. But I may as well. Okay, hey, that's Saved by the Bell. I have a question. What's your question? Have you read the sermons of Saint Maximus of Sardis? Okay, well, all right. Devin, when you have your question ready, I'm going to read this. I have not. I can honestly say I have not. And I do apologize. If there's a link, send it to me, and I'll take a look at it. So let me see here. Okay, so I'm going to, I guess, I'm going to go with, probably a bit of a controversial take. People, there's talk about an Orthodox Rosary. Oh boy. Okay, so after the apologetics series you are doing, what is next? Back to history? Any plans? I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure. I think I've got probably like 4 or 5 more lessons. And then we're kind of done, and I want to repackage that so it's a solid thing. It's something that I had been planning for a year. Over a year. I'd actually been planning to write it as a book. And it just was on my list of things to do for so long that once I started getting clearer on this channel, I decided, you know what, why don't I just do that on video? And that's, let's see here. And so that's kind of, I'm not sure. I don't know. What I'd like to do, honestly, is I'd like to start really, that's a topic. Okay. What I'd like to do is pursue the a larger scale goal. And what I mean by that is this, that I think we're all getting pretty good at defending the faith. I think what we need to do is we need to start looking at for lack of a better word, the future. It could be apocalypse. I mean, we're getting close, these vaccine passports, we're getting close to like Mark of the Beast sort of scenarios. But what my bigger thought on this is that assuming that the end is not immediately nearby. Now we have to look at the situation as it is. And right now the situation is the three basic groups that we're going to be engaged against, if we're going by worldwide, are going to be atheism, which is not too much of a concern because God reaches who he wills. Islam, because globally that is a battlefront everywhere. It is in Asia, it is in Africa, and there are people converting to Christianity. We need to be at the forefront of that, and we need to be answering these people because we have the historical memory that Protestants lack. For example, we know what Islam did to us, and that historical memory can be helpful in our apologetic in answering these folks. But in any case, let's and then the other front, of course, is Roman Catholicism, which, to be fair, is collapsing on itself. There's not much we have to do. Unfortunately, what that's going to do is it's going to lead to mass atheism unless we come in and try to help these people. Let me see. Hold on. Hold on. I have to go back. History 100. Okay, I'll take that. Which Father Aidan? Father Aidan Keller. In Texas, and he didn't write a West. He literally translated prayers and then organized it. And I really like the history. I'm glad. I will try to do more history as well. Have you ever tried lifting? Yeah, when I was 25. I haven't been lifting except for furniture for the past 2 decades. But I'm going to try other things on that. Did you hear about the Orthodox Church in Kabul that was martyred? I did not. I had heard that there was. I heard so many conflicting stories about Orthodoxy in Afghanistan that it was a kind of like a transient parish, and then I heard that it was actually a real parish and it was run by the Romanians, and then I heard it was just a visiting priest, and I heard it was a military chapel. If it was martyred, that's really depressing, and that's very sad. So prayers go out to them. I want to hear your thoughts on the Orthodox Rosary. I simply pray the Sarum Rosary, just the Hail Mary and Pater Noster on the relevant beats. If you're just saying the Angelic Salutation and the Our Father, you're good. Take out all the ridiculous mysteries, all that stuff. Because here's what happened. I heard an apologist talking about using the Orthodox Rosary once, and this bothered me because it seems to be popularizing this version, I should say, of the quote-unquote Orthodox Rosary, or rather, because the Rosary itself is a post-schism term. But what it is that supposedly it was, first I read it was promoted by Saint Seraphim of Sarov. Then you find out it was promoted by a different Saint Seraphim. And if you go deeper into the history of this, what you find is that the description of what actually was occurring was that at Saint Seraphim's monastery in Russia, there would develop a practice of circumambulating the monastery grounds and doing 300 angelic salutations and 300 Our Fathers. And that's, to nobody's recollection, what a rosary is. But then you start seeing that there's other stuff like the mysteries of the Rosary, which magically match the Latin mysteries of the Rosary, and supposedly was a disciple of this Saint Seraphim or that, and it's always some holy unidentified nun, and it all originates with a Uniate website. I've never seen any Orthodox source for any of the things that make the quote-unquote Orthodox Rosary a rosary. So if you're just saying the Rejoice, the Otheotokos, and the Our Father, you're good. And, that's more than good. I say keep it at that and just call it prayer beads because that's what they are. There's a whole Islam account called Orthodox Shahada. I'm going to assume you mean Shahada. I'm very confused by that. It looks like it was started with people with good intentions, but my concern, and it's a minor concern and probably not a big deal, is that because a lot of new converts, I tell people all the time, you got to go to church. You have to get into a church. You have to go, get received, live the life of a church. The Shahada, for those who are not familiar, is the declaration in Islam that, you are now a Muslim, that you submit to Muhammad as Allah's messenger, blah, 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 blah. Orthodoxy doesn't work like that, which is why Islam can claim a conversion that, frankly, can be gone the next week. And all that mattered was the Shahada, so that's my problem was in seeing that people were kind of becoming Orthodox online, quote unquote, and not actually going to a priest. I'm hoping this doesn't promote that same sort of thinking, because that's not helping anyone. On the other hand, if it's just devoted to Islam, to arguing against Islam, I'm all for it. I think that's awesome. And let me see here. It's called Orthodox Prayers of Old England. It's out of print, but I spoke to Father Aiden. He's going to reprint it very soon. Also, if you go to a website called Occidentalis, it used to be on oh boy, this dog is eating plastic. Excuse me. It used to be that there was a website on Father Aiden's old page, which is still available on the Internet Archive. And you can actually get the prayers that were in the book out, which I heartily recommend. I should see if I can find that. I believe, give me a moment. I'll see if I can find a link to it, archive.org. And that old website used to be called Learn how to spell merciful. Mercifulsavior.com. And we'll go there, and that should pull up the old archive of it. And now we just have to, I'm going to go down to like 2012. Yeah, 2013 should work fine. We'll go here. Okay. Give me a moment. And I'll just, I'll just share the screen as I'm working on it. And so, no, it's not the complete work by any means. It is, these are just parts of the book. I own the book, and I still owe Father Aiden for that book. But that's, I hope you're not eating more plastic. So if you go here, it's where is it? Western Rite. And this is his old website. I think he does mostly Russian services now. However, from what I understand, he's kind of in charge of like Western Rite stuff. Although I think Father Mark Rowe is in charge. Okay, so you go here, and then Liturgical Text Project. Let me see if this. Okay, yeah, this is the page. So I'm going to just put a link to that, which I will put also in the comments here, and that way you can get to it. And you can download things like the morning prayers, the evening prayers, so on and so forth. I misread, please forgive me, I misread the articles surrounding Keller. Well, Father Aiden, I prefer that because of the fact that, he had a bit of a nemesis in, who at the time he was in the Milan Synod, that was completely attacking him as non-canonical, so on and so forth. But this was also the time where people were questioning Rochor's canonicity, blah, blah, blah. And the point is that, so some people began to refer to him by his secular name before he became a monastic, which I find a disgraceful practice. I think that if people can say father when they're talking about Roman Catholic priests that are important because of a book they read, and they can't extend that to an Orthodox monk, they should be ashamed of themselves. Even if that person was, schismatic, or if you want to call them non-canonical, it's absolutely disgraceful. And I've never supported that sort of behavior, even if I might have been guilty of it when I was younger, but it was wrong. Was Anthony Krapovitsky's dogma of redemption in any way similar to the Sacred Heart idea? well, Metropolitan Anthony Krapovitsky, to my knowledge, no. The Dogma of Redemption was a controversial text, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was close to that. Will you stop eating the plastic, doggo? Well, oh shoot! Oh no! Give me that. Right, sorry, I have this dog, and she's just eating anything she can find. You're just gonna stay here, and so yeah, yeah, they're on Wayback Machine. Okay, no, it's not the complete work. Um, and so let me see here. If Father Deacon, if you want to part with the book, I'd take it off your hands. I'd even throw it. No, thank you very much. I'm kind of amazed at how much these books have gone up in value. And you got to be. I'd say just keep searching for it. You'd be surprised. You may find it cheaper somewhere. And then let's see. And forgive me, I'm assuming he's part of a non-canonical church. I do not call Catholic priests my father. I'm just trying to remain consistent, as I do not know what to make of the legitimacy of non-canonical orders. Well, the question is, what is canonical, what is not? I have had this discussion so many times, because this is something that, for me, is a serious thing, and it always has been. But it's also something that I'm very loath to not bestow upon a person, for lack of a better word. And I don't bestow anything. That's the Holy Spirit operating through the grace of ordination. But in the case of monastic tonsure, it's always been traditional to refer to even heterodox monks as father. So that's something to keep in mind. And then let me see here. And I've not done sufficient research into it. I'm remaining obedient to the instructions given to me by my Rokor priest. I'm very surprised that a Rokor priest would actually tell you not to call someone father, but Father Aiden is part of Rokor. So, that's, I don't know what to do with that. And from what I understand, he was actually reordained. And so Sacred Heart was rejected by I'm assuming you mean Dominicans. I am not sure. I know that the Sacred Heart has one of those twisted histories that goes back and forth with different groups rejecting. Same thing with, oh, no, not my action figures. Sorry. Hey, no, that's mine. Okay. I might have bought some action figures at a Dollar Tree that I thought were cool. In any case, the dog found them. Okay, so let me see here. Yes, and I understand. Don't buy from Amazon. Much cheaper on Books. I agree, and you can get cheaper than that too if you're smart and you just watch and look around. And so that's definitely something that is we're let's see. It doesn't promote that regarding Orthodox channel. Shahada, you should watch the channel, Deacon, in case you haven't. It's really good. Oh, I plan to. I'm just busy. There's a lot to do. But I will, and it does look very neatly done. So I'm looking forward to it. I watched like the first couple of minutes of the first episode. Now we'll get more into it later on. What is the best approach to debate the papacy? Fathers, canon, scripture, history, a mix of everything. The answer to that question is who you're talking to. And this is one of the things that I will get into in more lessons. One of the most important aspects of apologetics is psychology. And I mean very basic psychology, not like, degree level psychology, but understanding people. If a person wants to debate you on the papacy, the question has to be why. And you might have to look a little deeper. Are they doubting the papacy? Then, yeah, you want to focus on the history of the papacy. Are they convinced that the fathers are saying that what Roman Catholicism teaches? Then you want to go down that path and you want to show them what the fathers actually say. You want to adjust the way you approach a person based on that person themselves. And so, what's it called? This should be called Chill Stream with Q&A. If I ever call something a chill stream, shoot me. Please. I'm like, that's not me at all. So that's what's it called? That's I guess let's see. Best resources for the first 7 councils. I'm going to go with the 7 ecumenical councils, Waste and Shaft, that's available online on the Christian Classics Ethereal Library, as well as the Tertullian.org website. Doggy, she's eating my encyclopedia. Okay, this dog is like going for everything. But honestly, that's the best one because it contains all of the major texts as well as all of the minor councils that were also approved, with the exception of the first second synod. All of the canons of the rudder effectively are in there in some version, with some discussion on each of them. A lot of the commentary is heterodox, it's Anglican, but a lot of it's pretty good. And so let's see here. Chill stream with crazy dogs. Okay, I'm this is not no chill stream. And then let's see here. The stream is ice cold. Okay, ice cold stream with crazy dog eating plastic and action figures. R.I.P. Wow, this is really weird. Also, any books on the text and statements from Blocker Night? Whoa, that's it's going to be trickier to get that one. I know that there are actually texts, and I've seen books on them. But if you give me a day or two, I will put them in the comments. Actually, I will just note to self that, and I will try to put them in the comments later if you want to just do a reminder, because it does take me a day or two to sometimes find stuff, and then I'll be able to find that and be able to help with that. So yeah, book recommendations are much better if you put them if I just put them in the video chat, because me finding it now would take forever. So let me see here. You should start responding to the prominent Protestants online and their arguments. Truth Unites is a good one. I have not seen Truth Unites yet, but to give you an idea of just how backlogged I am when it comes to Protestantism, I noticed recently there was that whole Matt Slick has been in discussion with various people about orthodoxy, and my debate with him, if you want to call it that, and I don't, is I've seen that online, that it's like Orthodox Deacon debates Matt Slick. What people don't realize is that that's literally one conversation out of about 6, because Apologetics Live was a weekly program, if it's still on, and I went on week after week after week, so you would not actually see the entire discussion we had. So I'm going to eventually go back and copy all of those pieces and paste them together and probably call it the Matt Slick saga. But the point is, a lot of the stuff that we deal with Protestants, it's not always, especially if it's in one of those live show forms, you're not going to get all the answers that you would. But Truth Unites, if you put that in the comments, I will try to take a look at their stuff and see if there's some pre-recorded stuff I can make that will answer that. I don't know if they say any good stuff. I mean, I haven't found any really good Protestant arguments, but maybe let's see if I'm wrong. Okay. Crisis in Byzantium, that is a good book there. Do we know anything about the council that supposedly took place in 1166 in Constantinople, which called Augustine Agios? I don't know anything on that, but I don't know that it's necessary, considering that he's referred to as blessed in the ecumenical, like it was the 5th ecumenical council. He's listed among the blessed fathers, so I don't know that it's even necessary to go that far. But I mean, he was venerated piecemeal throughout the Orthodox world, and it really wasn't called into question until people like Father Michael Oskul and Lazar Paulo and whatever, that guy. The point is that, let me see here. I found one good book on the councils from 861 to 870. Sad it's mostly in Greek. Unfortunately, that is true. However, I'm pretty sure that the council of 879 to 880, I'm sure that the Acts and some of its decrees have actually been translated. But it takes some searching. You'd be surprised at what you'll find on Google Books. And then 1870. Well, we know what happened in 1870. Yeah, the problem is, yeah, he does. When he got really confused when I said, "Can you square a circle?" That God could make a circle out of a square. That just seemed like impossible to him, that God could change the laws of geometry. I'm like sitting here like, do you really think God's that autistic? In any case, is the Milan Synod still a thing? No, the Metropolia is the thing. The Milan Synod, I was actually there for that, and that was kind of sad. What happened was Metropolitan Evlogius of Milan took in a very well-known Romanian prelate and, a younger fellow, and made him a bishop. And they decided that they were going to give all the properties to the Moscow Patriarchate. This was almost, I'd say maybe 6 months after they had just given the American dioceses a tomos of autonomy that was modeled on the original tomos of autonomy that Archbishop Maxentius gave to Portugal, which then transferred to Milan. And so when that happened, our synod broke communion with Milan. And unfortunately, Metropolitan of Logius, he seemed like he waffled in between that, changing his mind occasionally. Although Metropolitan Onufrius, where Archbishop Onufrius then took the seal of Milan and basically tried to run what was left. Yeah, the Milan Synod, like in terms of Europe, for the most part, fell apart. A couple of I know the English parishes. There's like in the British Isles, they stayed with us, and now they have a bishop. And then, there was the whole thing with the Philippines, so on and so forth. So I hope that answers that question. Unfortunately, the Milan Synod effectively is more of a history lesson than anything else. It died with Metropolitan of Logios. There is no new Metropolitan of Milan. And Metropolitan Onufrius has gone in his own direction. So that's just basically what the Metropolia is, what was left, which was ironic because when they came in 1997, everyone said they would change the Milan Synod, and they ended up being the only parts left of it. Yes, he's called a church doctor in the Fifth Ecumenical Council. He might have been called a church doctor, although that's such an uncommon term back then. As a former trad Catholic, the best resources is to show people the inconsistency starting from Vatican II and then go to pre-schism. Absolutely, and I'll tell you that the inconsistency goes all the way back to the 1100s when they first shrunk the Mass, and then when they eventually, the Tridentine Mass was actually an attempt to solidify and consolidate the Mass even further to the point where the change worldwide would have been almost like that of Vatican II, whole rites wholesale just disappearing, so on and so forth. And St. Gregory Palamas cites St. Augustine heavily in the Capita. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I think St. Photius cites him as well. So it's interesting to note, and St. Mark of Ephesus knew about him in Florence through Greek translation. So it's interesting to note that the pillars of Orthodoxy, St. Photius, St. Gregory Palamas, and St. Mark of Ephesus, were all conversant with St. Augustine. So I'm sticking with my endorsement. I asked for, because this is relevant for people which keep making the bad argument that Augustine is not a saint because he's called blessed and not saint. That's actually a terrible argument, and unfortunately, you're going to have to keep answering that because there is no such distinction in Orthodoxy. I've said this a dozen times on this show. Blessed and saint are the same thing. Any attempt, and you should bring this up, any attempt to say that blessed and saint are different things is Roman Catholic. And if somebody says, no, that's not, then you say, yes, it is. That's all you have to say because it's a bad Roman Catholic argument and they should feel bad for using it. And he single-handedly smashed Pelagianism. He's the hammer of the Pelagians. I agree. He also refuted the Donatists and defines our understanding of original sin. I'm all on board on this with guys. Hello. Okay. Hello. Any good book on Diophysite fathers? Well, I consider all the fathers Diophysite. So all of them, the idea that there's Monophysite fathers is ridiculous. Anyone who tries to cogently argue that St. Cyril was a Monophysite can be refuted with St. Cyril. So that, I don't know that there's such thing. I mean, all fathers are Diophysite in my book. Truth Unites is Gavin Ortland. He argues that incondulia, I think you're talking about icon. You might be talking about dulia, latria, and Hebrew. Yeah, I guess. Icon veneration deprives Christ of his glory, but that assumes glory veneration is a zero-sum game and a fixed fund. In reality, it increases his worship. I agree. On the Matt Slick subject, have you seen his debate with Seraphim? Let me think here. I think I did see that debate, actually. And it was actually quite good. I remember correctly. Yeah, it was. As a matter of fact, it was. I did see it, and it was recent, and it was actually very good. I agree. My biggest concern there, as I said, it seemed like everybody from Reason and Theology was in the chats kind of supporting Cobain, which made me a little bit nervous because I've seen how these guys do these things. The Reason and Theology guys, they try to get you in as their friend, but their only goal is always to either neutralize or convert any opposition to Roman Catholicism. I don't know that that's what happened here. I don't know if they sponsored the debate, how that worked, but I don't know why they were all there except for Lofton himself. Like every reason and theology guy was there. Confused the daylights out of me, but it made me suspicious. So I just would, tell Seraphim, just be careful around those folks. Does Mark 9:38-40 show that there are those who know Christ and love him but are not part of his church? Well, let's get the text. Mark 9:38-40. I do not have these memorized because I'm not holy. But let's get to Mark. And let's see. And I would just say right off the bat, just reading what you're writing there, I'd say not yet part of his church, because God will enter those who he will. And we get to 38-40. But Jesus said, do not forbid them, for there is no man that doth a miracle in my name and can soon speak ill of me. For he that is not against you is for you. For whosoever shall give you to drink a cup of water in my name, because you belong to Christ, amen, I say to you, he shall not lose his reward. Yeah, I mean, I would say that, that again, and this is part of the reason why I say the big focus has to be against Rome, because of the fact that the Protestants don't know where the church is. And if we can help them find the church, it will become easier for them. And for many of them, it's a great relief, because Roman Catholicism is just a nightmare system. And that's where our focus needs to be. Let me see here. There were some issues in the East towards St. Augustine after the Photian Council in Florence, because the Latins used him as an authority on Filioque. I don't know if that's necessarily true, because even Saint Mark was saying that doesn't look correct. From what I'm seeing, I don't think that they automatically. I don't think that they did, and I feel that people like Father Michael Oskools, may have presented it this way, but I don't think that the East had that level of antipathy towards St. Augustine as is implied after these councils. I don't think they were like anathema to Augustine. That didn't happen. When St. Palamas cites him, when St. Gregory cites him, St. Palamas is that's his monastery. Doesn't name him explicitly. Okay, presumably because of this tension. No, I don't. Again, I don't feel that this tension was really there. There just wasn't a general focus on Western saints to begin with, because of the fact that Orthodoxy is by nature local. So you're not going to find too much veneration, even of, you won't find massive veneration of St. Gregory Dialogus. There's no question he's an Orthodox saint, and that's the Greek version of his name. And we're talking about Pope St. Gregory the Great. Are you going to find a whole bunch of icons to him everywhere? Not many. Not as many as you would think, because he just wasn't locally relevant. I've seen that Mark's passage being used to defend valid sacraments among non-Orthodox too. Well, sure, and I'll be willing to grant that the sacrament that requires you hand over a cup of water is perfectly valid among the Protestants. Unfortunately, there is no sacrament like that, so that's not a real argument. Right, but Saint Photius actually defended St. Augustine by name in his Mystagogy. Yes, he did. Let's continue. Yeah, well, hating St. Augustine is so modernist, so Orthodox should just knock it off. I agree completely. It's just right-wing renovationism. Yes, okay. I don't trust any texts used by St. Augustine by Latins in Florence or Post. Yeah, you shouldn't. You should just trust it, St. Augustine's works as you can get them originally. And indeed, never trust liars and assume who they quote didn't mean what they twist it to mean. That's absolutely right. The very fact that this is why I say context is everything. And, go back to that context episode if you have to. But the point is, just because somebody pulls out a patristic quote does not mean it says what they think it says. And they are usually not even aware of that, because they've never read the full text. It's your task at that point to educate them and not move past it until they have realized and can tell you that they have realized that that text did not mean what they thought it meant. This is extremely important. Okay, let's see here. We should read St. Augustine in the context of the church and read them fully. I agree completely. By the way, what do you think about Cobain, Seraphim, Hamilton? Do you think he's okay and his conscience is okay because it helped me and he seems I use it quite a bit. I'm fairly supportive of him. I've known of his work for many, many years. He's a good guy. He's human. Nobody is perfect. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, is he the best? I don't know. He's trying to defend orthodoxy. There's no fault in that. That's good. We should all be doing that. So that's my view. Blessed Father Seraphim Rose wrote a book defending St. Augustine. Yes, you're absolutely right. The Place of Blessed Augustine in the Orthodox Church. Very good book. And hopefully, I don't know if that's still in print. It should be. But yeah. So one of these things is that, Orthodox apologists really need to start supporting each other instead of forming parties. And this is that's kind of sad because that it's gotten to that point. That it seems like everybody has, because that when you do that, apologetics becomes reductionist. It's no longer the Orthodox Church you're defending; it's my Orthodox Church. And that's not right. It's not right because that's not how Orthodoxy has survived over 2,000 years. Well, I mean, to some degree, that's always had people like that. But to defend the faith is you've got to kind of have a bit of a higher mind than that. Kind of look past the divisions. And let's see, there's a Byzantine service to St. Augustine. Yes, there is. Approved by Roker in 1955. Yes, so. And also approved by St. John Maximovich, who approved a lot of Western Saints venerations and the Western Rite. I agree completely. And so let me see here. A link to the service. Okay, you guys figure that one out because I don't have a link to that. And so let's see here. We're in the 50th minute. I'm going to give it about 10 more minutes if there are any other questions, and then we're going to have say good evening on that one. And so let me see here, and can find the link in St. Sergius. It may be there. Okay, well, that's fine. I know St. Augustine is confirmed on the. Well, yeah, he's on every Western calendar. There's no Western calendar that doesn't have St. Augustine. I think he may even be on some Russian calendars. But again, we're talking about local veneration. St. Augustine was a Western saint, and you're not going to find all the Western saints on the Eastern calendar. And that doesn't mean they're not saints. That just means they're not on the local calendar. Are you eating plastic again? Seriously? Here, have this instead. No plastic for doggy. Eating Scotch tape. A Pocket Church History, also by Father Aidan Keller. That is actually on fatheralexander.org. If you go there, and that was actually Bishop Alexander found it a useful enough book that he put that on the website, so you can actually get that. Imagine synthesizing all the Greek fathers with all the Latin fathers together with all the Syriac fathers. Yeah, I imagine that. I mean, you got to do a little bit of that practically. I wouldn't say make a great book of it because that would be a text that would be near. I mean, that's like you're talking like Vladimir Moss level writing. Like you're talking like 1,000 pages per volume, and it would just be terrifying. You can't synthesize all the Greek and Latin fathers because we don't have all their writings. And I would be questioning with the Syriac fathers. You have to be careful because a lot of them, were actually Monophysites, and so they're not, because when we say the Syriac fathers, I always start to get a little nervous because there's people like to throw in Severus and people like that in there. Would you say St. Augustine is clear on the Trinity? I think that St. Augustine was aware of his own limitations on explaining the Trinity. So I would say in some ways he's clear, in some ways he's not, and his writing is sometimes it's difficult writing. But I think he tried his best, and I think he understood that was the best he could do within his own limitations. I know that a lot of people were not fans of his. St. Jerome couldn't stand him and made that clear in his writings and would be sarcastic and kind of vicious towards him. I really need to clean this room. This dog keeps finding more plastic. Anyway, so that's what I would say. Let me see here. I'm not by Syriac fathers, I mean St. Apharat the Persian, St. Ephraim the Syrian, St. Isaac the Syrian. Yeah, okay, well, those, yeah, but again, when we're limiting it to those fathers, for example, you're going to find there's some harmonization, but they talk about different things. St. John of Damascus is a great father on that, but the point is there's just a lot. I'm not an expert, but I've heard later son he explicitly clarified that from the Son means through the Son. St. Maximus says that the Western from the Son means through the Son. You see, this is where it gets confusing because, yes, that is true, and St. Martin's clarifications on that help. The problem is that Roman Catholicism will try to say that, and then they'll be like, okay, well, so you see we have the same belief. But they don't, because they actually do believe in a full double procession. And then they'll tell you, no, we believe this, even though they really don't. And this is one of the bigger problems when you're dealing with. That's why I don't even like dealing with the Western controversy on the from the sun to equals through the sun. To some degree, it's right. Is it acceptable to anyone living today? No, absolutely not. So why use the argument? I just wouldn't. And so let's see here. Past that, not much else here going on. We've got about 5 minutes. If there are any other questions or comments. Well, they don't have the same belief but St. Augustine did, which is the point. Oh, absolutely. And it's good for a use of a defense of St. Augustine. Would you say double procession is blasphemy to the Holy Spirit? I would say that double procession is disrupts the harmony of the persons of the Trinity. I don't know that. I mean, is ignorant? The question becomes ignorance versus blasphemy. It's an insult to the glory of God the Father, but is it an intentional insult? I can't say that I know the hearts and minds. I would say that the people who created the real filioque controversy, and everyone from Anselm on down, the leaders who really cemented the filioque in the West, they were blaspheming against the Holy Spirit. But I don't know that your average person who doesn't understand it is. They're probably just closer to Sabellians without realizing it. St. Augustine once said in the document of the 649 Council of Lateran, so monotheism was contemned. But we don't have the documents translated from Greek. That's true. And, with time, I think that there was actually a scholarly edition of the 649 Lateran Council translated. I'd have to look for it. If you remind me in the comments, maybe I'll see if I can find something. Are you sure we have the access? That's what I thought. It was translated by Price. Yeah. And so, but it's like $200, I should mention. It's like his books are expensive. If you can find a PDF, I don't think the translations to me are not of the same value as original documents. So it's good to have them, but I think people putting price tags on things that are available for free in their original languages is just wrong. St. Maximus may have known St. Augustine. He wrote the Acts of the Lateran Council. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that St. Augustine died before St. Maximus was active. I could be wrong, though. There is 649 Council. I have it. I've read it at some point. I can send a PDF here. It'd probably be best to do like a drive or a Dropbox or something like that, and then put a link in the comments. That's a thing. Everyone should learn Greek. Simple. Or everyone should learn Latin, or everyone should learn Slavonic. But the point is, I've found that there's so much information available in English. And I'm going to say right off the bat, in Spanish, and there's a lot less information, because I go looking for stuff in Spanish sometimes, and you'd be surprised at how much less, because the influence of the Roman Catholic Church is so much heavier in Latin America that there's a lot less stuff translated, because the less people know, the better for Rome. So in that sense, we can be grateful being, Anglophones, that the Anglicans, so desperate to prove themselves as the Church of England, did a lot of translations of fathers and things like that we wouldn't normally have. That granted, their reasoning was wrong, but their translations were pretty good. So hey, thanks guys. Let me see here. Syriac, Aramaic, I guess. So let me see. He may have known his works. Hey, you're right, saying, okay, I was going to say, yeah, I'm like, I don't think they lived in the same centuries. Okay. St. Augustine knew Cyril of Alexandria. Yes, he did know St. Cyril of Alexandria. So let me see here. Okay, so we're at minute 58. If there are any other questions, not to mention there are dark occult forces which change the original documents in their quote-unquote translation. No, you're right. And sometimes you do, especially with those filioquist quotes. You have to look at the original documents. But the amazing thing about living in this age that we do is that this was one of the reasons that inspired Bishop Enoch to go looking for these documents, is these are centuries-old manuscripts, millennia-old manuscripts that you couldn't get into when I was growing up. When I was, a kid, there was no internet. You wanted to see a 13th century French manuscript. The best you were going to get, if you were lucky, was in a major library like the New York Public Library. Might have had a set of photo scans of some of the pages in a book in the library, which you could not take out. You were going to have to head off to the University of Paris or whatever monastery kept it, and you were going to have to take a look. And today, you can look at those manuscripts literally with your computer because they've been scanned. People have access to them. And that's what's allowing us to see certain things. Certain volumes, they're pretty hard to get still. They still have the paywalls and the firewalls around them. But it's getting to a point where the sheer volume of what we have is enough to keep us busy for a lifetime if we try. And let me see things. We have prophecies from the Holy Elders that those in power will change the liturgical books, will forge the writings of the fathers in the new translations, so that we will need to keep the old editions of the books. We need to keep old translations of liturgical books as old translations from the fathers, such as those translated 1 century ago, for example. That's an interesting elder's prophecy. I'm not sure which elder said that, but I mean, they've been trying to change the books. This is something that we've been witnessing over time. And it's unfortunately, it goes back to dealing with heretics. I remember when I was younger, and there was a lot of talk of the Melkite Uniates, that their translations of liturgical books had been very useful in the English-speaking world, and I discovered that among the Antiochians that they had been using some of the Melkite books because they just assumed they were good translations. And I was reading through an ordo, and I pointed out to the priest who was doing the ordo that at one point it said, your Immaculate Conception. And he was like, what? He didn't, because he just copy pasted. And he was like, wait a second. And so he went back to the Arabic. He pulled out, because he had the books in Arabic. And he's like, it just means it's just, your pure conception. It doesn't say anything about, it doesn't use the phrasing that they would use for Immaculate Conception in Arabic. And so the point is, they just were sneaking things in. And it's that convenience that gets us in trouble. It's that convenience when we say, well, Price translated it, so it's probably pretty good. I don't trust single translations. If you can get something in multiple translations, you're in better shape, because of the fact that at least then you can avoid potential biases of the author. And we're seeing this with Bible translations even, which is part of the reason why I just use it. I personally just use the Douay Rheims, and I'm good. Well, in any case, so it proves St. Augustine, hold on, it didn't teach the Filioque. I found one Pope Leo manuscript that was so corrupted I could literally see a future hand adding something in. Yeah, you'll look at some of these actual manuscripts, and they'll literally have little cross outs and little writing in the margins from clearly different hands, and it's really sad that people would do that. Let's see. Here in Brazil, I've seen liturgical books like small versions of Minaeans by Eastern Catholics being used by some. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it is, because unfortunately the doctrinal bias can get in there, and that's where it gets dangerous. And it's always with secret ecumenical goals. The goal is, once you've got a bunch of people saying Immaculate Conception over and over in the liturgical service, then when they say, well, why do you differ with us on the Immaculate Conception? You've been saying it for so long. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And that's how they cause the Union of 1724. But 1724 will again demonstrate once again that one person can make a difference. And in that case, it was Sylvester of Antioch. Let me see. They began to change the Bible in Romanian, for example, and censor the Prohod of our Lord. That wouldn't surprise me, but unfortunately, that's why it's important to keep, it is important to keep the older texts. I don't think they can't do it large scale. And because of the nature of Orthodoxy, in which it's decentralized, there will always be another group that comes out and points out, hey, that's an innovation. That's always how it works for us. That's fine. The Prohod, that's a good question. Anyone want to help here with the Slavonic? I think that's Slavonic. Prohod. Hold on. I haven't been using Slavonic in a very long time. Prohod, the walk of our Lord. Okay, I assume that's the via. And so let me see here. The one we chant on Good Friday. Okay, that makes sense. And then Devin says, yeah, Buckle Crane was the one who showed you the chant. That it wouldn't surprise me. You see stuff like that, especially with the Good Friday services. You can sometimes see the influence of Unionism, even today, in American Orthodoxy. And I literally found it in some Hispanic collection. I don't know where what you guys are talking about, but there's lots and lots of interpolations. So don't be surprised. They removed or rewritten the accusatory parts against the Jews, of course. That's always the first cleanup thing, because that's ever since Vatican II, that's what everyone's trying to just suck up to. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what it comes down to. Is that people are not they're not taking their the saints and the writings of the fathers. Any good parishes in Northern California you recommend? I have never been to California. I don't know the area, and I don't know anyone there. Um, I mean, I would suggest, using church directories, and you'll see what you can find. Um, yep. And Devin wrote, "Happy to report on Western Rite. We still have the prayers for the Jews." Yep, we still have those in the Western Rite and the Metropolitan Roll as well, uncensored. It's done by the Romanian Patriarch, and I'm talking about the situation in Romania. Yeah, no, I understand. And unfortunately, the Romanian Patriarch, there's the influence of the Romanian Unionists, who are huge there. And so, unfortunately, it's a problem. But this is one of the reasons why I bring this up because this is so true so often. Wherever there is innovation, you will find a strong number of traditionalists. And so, I mean, the Romanian, especially the Romanian old calendarists are huge in number because of that. Because there, and wherever you find people innovating from tradition, you'll find traditionalists suddenly popping out of nowhere. It's part of the nature of Orthodoxy, and it's part of its self-protective stance. And so that's actually it'll have to work itself out, because things are always changing. I read a very interesting, I guess it was a prophecy of some elder to, I think it was Metropolitan Neophytus of Morphu, I believe it was, and he something about the ship of the church being changed, and I think that I would welcome that change because, frankly, a lot of the people in authority, I hate to say this, but it would be good if they finally decided to meet their Lord, because, frankly, granted, the situation has been worse in Orthodoxy worldwide. It has been worse many times over the centuries, but we're not in a great place right now. Granted, on the plus side, we're still in a better place than the Roman Catholics, who frankly can now fully see the exposure of their fake system blowing up on itself. And so let me see here. Let's see here. What else? And if anyone else has any other questions, comments, or concerns. But yeah, no, that's been about it. And so we'll get back to the last few chapters, I guess you could say, that we're going to work on for the how-to on apologetics. And once we're done with that, then we'll look at possibly doing more history, more structured things on the mysteries, and if we ever get to debate some people, that would be good. That we haven't debated already. And so, can you debate a Jewish person? Well, I mean, I can debate anybody. I don't understand why I wouldn't. I mean, why wouldn't I debate a Jewish person? I mean, are they actively looking to debate us? I wasn't aware of that. I mean, outside of the what do you call those? The Chabad type people. But in any case, yeah, I welcome any challenges, and that's fine. I'm good with them. Let me see here. Well, I could point out one or two changes in the Romanian Synodal Bible. Yeah, if you want. I don't doubt it. I know that there was a translation. They tried to do a translation of the New Testament in Greece that caused riots in the streets. So I do not doubt this at all. If people are interested, just let Take Back Constantinople know. Thank you, and thank you. No problem. I'm glad that I could help. All right. if there's nothing else, in that case, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Thank you for your comments, contributions, and take care. Happy feast of St. Eutychius, and have a great day.